Well, hello, everybody. I'm Jen Lotito. I am the president and COO of Red, and I am really thrilled to welcome everybody to this next episode of Red Talks. This is a particularly, beautiful time of year for us here at Red. It is the holiday season. We are really excited with our new campaign, the gifts that hit different. We have over 130 gifts that are perfect for holiday shopping, from wellness to technology, and clothing and many others. We're really excited about all of the gifts, but we have one of our partners and products that we're most excited about today. I'd like to welcome Beatrice Dixon, who is the co-founder of the Honey Pot, which is a plant-derived feminine hygiene company, feminine care company, I should say, that is really changing the world for women and girls. And Beatrice, it's so lovely to have you here again and join us. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing so good, Jennifer. I'm so grateful to be here. This partnership means so much to me, so I'm super excited to be having this conversation.
Wonderful. Well, thanks so much for being here. And I have to say, it's a really important time for Red, and a very busy year. I think all of us can probably relate to coming up on the end of the year.
It's crazy.
It really is. It really is. And I think that for us, this year has been a really important one. For those who don't know, every 3 years, the organization that we generate money for, the Global Fund, goes through a replenishment campaign. This year in September in New York City, we saw the largest Global Fund replenishment in its history, with governments coming together, with private sector leaders. And we saw everybody stepping up. And what's really important is that the beauty of Red is making sure that government leaders are stepping up, but then Red is bringing the private sector into that. So ensuring that, government leaders make their pledges and then, with those commitments, actually make sure they deliver on them. Red steps in on behalf of the private sector for the biggest companies in the world and makes a pledge as well. So we did that in September. Over the next 3 years, we're going to be looking to generate more money than ever before. And the way we're going to do that is by working with some of the greatest products and brands. And I'm so proud to have the Honey Pot Corporation, the Honey Pot Company, part of that group. So thank you so much for being part of Red. For those of you, can I also just tell a funny little story?
Yes.
During the Global Fund replenishment, we had a conference, and during the conference, we had a pop-up shop that featured all of our best Red products. And while we were there was a former first daughter who had come and had visited the pop-up shop. And as we were walking around, I was pointing out the Honey Pot to her. And we had a really great conversation about companies that are run by women, that are creating these innovative new products for women. And never in my life did I think I was going to be talking to a former first daughter about periods and menstrual pads. But there you go. This is what it's all about.
But isn't it beautiful? Because at the foundation of who that human is, whether they're a first daughter, whether they're a celebrity, whether they're a human, that works every day, that does normal things, right? That's not out in the public eye. It doesn't matter, because every human that has a vagina very likely is going to bleed at some point in their life, right? So
exactly.
It takes all the things that we attach to the society that we live in, and it really gets down to the foundation, to the simplest fact, right? And
absolutely, it's the great leveler, right? And
so I think that's beautiful.
This beautiful, you can have this beautiful conversation, and it's just sort of, you're relating woman to woman about this thing, and why not talk about it? But we don't.
Why not?
But we should. And what you realize is, actually, it was a really easy conversation to have, and it just, in the middle of this conference, which it was probably 75% men. There's all these people walking by and everything.
As with most conferences, right?
Exactly. So it was a very special moment, and one that I will never forget. And thanks to you and your products for making it happen, even though you didn't even know about it. But anyway, so with all of that said, can you talk a little bit about the Honey Pot Company?
Yeah, so the Honey Pot Company was really born out of a personal need of my own. I had an infection that I couldn't get rid of. Essentially, my grandmother came to me in a dream and told me what to do to fix my situation. And and I literally did what she told me to do, and it worked. And and I felt so strongly that that if that could work for me, that probably could work for other humans that have vaginas. And so that's what we did. We set out and we made a company, and our herbal menstrual pads are really like very near and dear to me, because they really helped me through a lot. The product that I was talking about before was our washes, because that's what our first product was. But once we got into retail, we were actually able to start an herbal pad company, and these herbal pads are really beautiful because this was the opportunity that Honey Pot was able to take to really cross the aisle and do what no other feminine care company had ever done before, And so, just to back up, a few years ago, we had the opportunity to partner with Red, and and it's just been beautiful. It's been a really great partnership, a really great relationship. Honey Pot donates about 2% of our profits yearly. And Red happens to be one of the organizations that we do that through. But yeah, Honey Pot it's a it's a company that literally started from a real need. And with the work that Red is doing, and the work that we're doing around the world, there's so many humans that have vaginas that are in true need, And the other really beautiful thing about these products, these are our clean cotton products, which actually are cost a little bit less than what our organic cotton products do, which I think is important because it gives people access that may not be able to afford the other pad, and so I think that that's another reason why this partnership with Red is so important to me, because it provides access.
Yeah, that's great. I want to talk about the young women and girls thing in a minute, but before I do that, I'm always fascinated about business models and about entrepreneurs, and especially female entrepreneurs. And I'm curious what that experience has been like for you. I always hear these stories, whether it's Sarah Blakely and others, about how hard, especially, I love Sarah's story because it was about, trying to create these products, and that they all seem to be created by men who had never worn the products before.
Right.
And I'm curious, as a female entrepreneur with a product like this, what was that experience like for you?
I mean, my experience has been beautiful, but it's definitely been hard. But I think that anybody that's in business for 10 years, it doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man, it's going to be hard, raising money was hard. Mm-hmm. Getting the brand off the ground was hard. A lot of it was hard. Our peers that we sit on the shelf with, those companies aren't necessarily always ran by women, or humans that have vagina, I should say. I always say humans with vaginas because not every human that has a vagina considers himself a woman. So it's just out of respect. But but at the same time, like, even though all those companies may not be ran by humans that have vaginas, it's still really important that those companies are there because they create a lane for us. So while it has been hard, and while, it is an anomaly to be a human with a vagina in the vagina business, I'm really grateful to my peers and counterparts that have really made the way and made the markets for us to be able to compete in, and for us to be, you know what I mean? And so I never speak kind of against that. It's definitely not an easy road to take because we're boxing with gods that have been doing this for many, many years. that have billions of dollars. But that's okay. That's all right. But yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting ride, but I'm sure when Summer's Eve first got started, that was an interesting ride. You know what I mean? So, it's just that now they're owned by a strategic and that's the way that it is, but yeah.
No, I think that's exactly right. And I think I love your approach. And I think from a Red perspective, when we look at our work, certainly women and girls are such an important, or humans with vaginas, I guess I should get started saying, are such an important part of the work that Red does. And, when we think about Red's focus and the state of the fight against AIDS, we recognize that women and young girls are disproportionately affected by pandemics. And so, what's really important for us from a Red perspective is thinking about the impact of pandemics, whether it's HIV or COVID or others, that is had on young women and girls. And the injustice that is allowing that to continue to thrive. And so whether you're LGBTQIA or women, marginalized communities tend to be much more disproportionately affected by the pandemics. And that is an injustice that Red is very focused on fighting. So, if you think about a virus like HIV that is both treatable and preventable, there's really no reason why women should be 2 times more likely than men to get it, and why women, nearly 5,000 women, are being infected with HIV every week. This is just crazy. So from a Red perspective, we're really thinking about, after doing this for 16 years, and I think we can all acknowledge that people are a little bit tired of talking about COVID. They maybe think that HIV is a disease of the past. That is very much not the case, and especially when it comes to marginalized communities. And so for us, what we've been thinking about is elevating our message to be about, stopping these injustices that are allowing these pandemics to thrive. So I'm just curious from your perspective, like, how does that resonate with you? Are you feeling that as well in terms of seeing what's out there and in the world and where these injustices live and what you've seen on behalf of the honeypot?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel that too, right? I think that, but I think that part of the reason why these things happen is because women are still an underserved community, right? And especially if you're a human of color, or if you're a human who, identifies as being LGBTQ plus, right? And, and so when you think about being a marginalized community, when you think about being underserved, when you think about what that does to you when you're literally just trying to provide for yourself, for your family, for your kids, I don't know about you, sister, but like, I know that when I go to the doctor, I get my stress hormones and all those things tested, right? And being women who are executives, right? Humans with vaginas who are executives, who are just working and doing our thing. The stress levels that you and I deal with are crazy, right? So let's add on not having access to resources. Let's add on living in a food desert, right? Let's add on, having to rob Peter to pay Paul, hoping to God that that you can live check to check. Being in the grocery store, checking your bank account to be like, okay, look, sister, this was just me a couple years ago, by the way, right? Like, I was in the grocery store, like, all right, I got $25. Like, what am I gonna do? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, how are you going to spend it? What are you going to spend it on? Yep.
What are you gonna spend it on, right? And so when you just look at like the bare minimum stress that just happens on a daily, and then you add all those things on, how people don't realize, our mothers say it, but it's true. Stress can kill you. Stress is like the it's basically the communication system for any kind of dis-ease to come in, right? And then you add on the thing, you know, all the things that we deal with our organs and our body parts and our periods and our hormones and all the things. It's not that men don't have those same issues, right? But when you're an underserved community, all of those stresses just add on to everything. And so, you know, so I'm very passionate about that, you know, which is why even though even though we are technically a premium brand, our products aren't so premium that the average human isn't able to afford them, right? You know, at Honey Pot, we work with Red, and we also work with, you know, we work with a program out of Africa that serves humans that in a maternal program through Alafia. I mean, these humans are having babies on the floor.
Yep.
On tile slabs, right? Maybe they've got clean water, right? Maybe their husband or their partner in life is okay with them going to the doctor. Mm-hmm. Maybe they had some prenatal vitamins. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe Absolutely. They were able to eat a good meal, right? Yep. And so
maybe they have electricity, right?
Maybe they have electricity or they don't, right? Yep. Yep. Maybe they have medicine just in case something goes wrong with the child. Yep. Maybe they have a monitor. Yep. You know, another organization that we work with is the Georgie Badiel Foundation. I know I'm talking to you, but I think that it's really important because we think about the things that we deal with here in America when we have access to just basic things. Even the person that's in the most dire needs still maybe has access to water, right? You know, but we work with another foundation called the Georgie Badiel Foundation that literally teaches people how to build their own wells, right? Or not build their own wells, but fix their wells in their villages that are broken, yep. Right? Yep. And teaches and essentially they drill new wells, but the thing that's most powerful about them is that they actually work with women in the villages to teach them how to be engineers so that they can fix their well when it's broken. Because once again, right, being marginalized, not having access, you know, I think the work that Red is doing and the work that we're doing, the work that a lot of organizations are doing in Africa is extremely important because Africa has been so abused and taken, you know? And so, you know, so all this to say, you know, whether it's the country that we live in or the other countries around the world that just don't have access to very simple, basic things, you know, that makes for a very stressful environment, you know? And, you know, and I think that we as a society have to do better with just treating each other better. There's no reason why, just like there's no reason why these humans that have vaginas should be 2 times more likely to get HIV and AIDS, which by the way, I just wanted to say, it's quite beautiful to hear you say that it is a treatable and preventable disease. I remember I just turned 40. When I was a kid, that wasn't a thing.
Oh, 100%. I remember being absolutely terrified when I was in college. I'm 51. Terrified. You know, I think now we live in a world where, you know, we're very fearful of getting a cancer or something like that. I mean, this was a cancer, and there was no treatment available.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So it's beautiful, and Red has a lot to do with that, you know. And so everything that I said and everything that you said, just to get back to, you know, the work that Red is doing is so incredible. You know, our partnership with Red is important because it essentially invests in humans having access to medicine and humans having access potentially to get to the doctor, right? And humans just having access to things that they need so that it can be preventable.
Exactly. Well, I think, and that is exactly where I was going to go, because 2 things. One is it's great that it's treatable and preventable, but it needs to be treatable and preventable for everyone, right?
Exactly.
So if you're in New York, yes, you know how to get treatment. You go down to the local drugstore, whatever, right? There's no reason why. We know how to do this, and we need to make sure. That's where the injustice comes in, is like, okay, so but if I live in Lusaka, I don't get that same treatment. So that's really important.
Or if you live in Middle America.
Exactly. I mean, this is something that we have to focus on. And so
Absolutely.
The other thing that I think is really important about what you were just saying is the preventable part. And one of the things that I am most proud of in all of the work that I've seen on the ground, there is an organization that we fund, and you certainly fund through your partnership, and the Global Fund puts to work, called the Rise Club. And if it was a decade ago and you were a young woman living somewhere in South Africa, you wouldn't really have a way of being easily educated about what HIV was. And what the beauty of the Rise Club is, well, first of all, when I went to see it, I have two children, two teenagers, and I could see my daughter in these girls who were up there performing. And these girls, it's so full of life and what they're doing, right? It's the power. So what you talked about just a minute ago was all of these things that women and girls need to have access to, from water and electricity and all these things when they're delivering babies. What they also need access to is peer support, and peer leadership. And, what I saw at that time was girls working with girls to talk about the need to stay in school, to stay safe from HIV. There are these blessers in South Africa who will give you iPhones or money or whatever to have sex with them. And then these young girls, unfortunately, are then, being infected with HIV. So simple idea, but bringing these girls together in a very comfortable environment. They're singing, they're dancing, they're empowering.
They're just being young. They're just being young people.
Exactly. They're not being lectured. They're forming a sisterhood, supporting each other, understanding the power of being smart, protecting yourself, staying in school. Those are the types of programs. So while it's really important to get the treatment where it's needed, it's really important to stop people from getting HIV to begin with. And so seeing stories like that and moments like that, I mean, that's why I get out of bed every day and do what I do. We could all be doing different things in this world, but that to me is the power of the Red model and partnerships like Honey Pot, which is putting this money into both prevention as well as treatment, because there is no reason why everybody shouldn't have that same access.
I totally agree.
Yeah. So that is, that is.
It's ridiculous, actually.
Right?
It's quite ridiculous that food, water, and drugs are not just simply there for anybody who needs it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, that's really where, there is, we often talk about the luck of geography, right?
Yeah.
Our co-founder often talks about that, or the bad luck of geography, right? Like, okay, so if I'm a woman, a human with a vagina that's born in New York, I'm going to have different things enabled to me than if I were born somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa. There's just there's an inherent
or in India,
exactly,
or in Ukraine,
exactly.
Unfortunately, right? Or in Flint, Michigan.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Yep.
Or on the south side of Chicago.
These are universal issues that are being faced by humans with vaginas. And I think we've got to get out there. People like you and me have to get out there. We've got to empower these women. When it comes to places in, sub-Saharan Africa and others, India, Flint, Michigan, wherever, we've got to make sure that we are supporting these girls, keeping them healthy.
Absolutely.
And giving them the education that they need in order to thrive. And that is where, Red is, it is all about making sure that this injustice, whether it's a racial injustice, a gender injustice, all of these things, that we're doing our best to end those, because that's the only way. We talk a lot about HIV/AIDS. We've been talking a lot about COVID. certainly in the past couple of years. There will be the next pandemic that comes in, and I guarantee you these marginalized communities are going to continue to be the ones that are affected more so than others. So it's really important that these programs that we're funding through partnerships like the Honey Pot continue.
I agree. And we're grateful to be a part of it, you know?
Well, I was actually going to ask you about that. So we're coming up on about 1.5 years of this partnership. I didn't know you before this partnership. Can you talk a little bit about what made you decide to partner with Red?
I mean, Red had reached out to us a couple of times, right? And we just we were rubbing wooden nickels together. We were just trying to survive, you know? And so when the opportunity came where we actually could work together, you know, we really ran at it. You know, I think I had been wanting to work with Red for probably 2 or 3 years prior to when we got started, you know, and, you know, even in the beginning of Honey Pot, when all we could do was donate like $100 a month to AfriPads, because that's all we had to invest, right? My thought process has always been just give what you can. It can be tiny, it can be small, you know, or it can be a big partnership like we have with Red, you know. But it's really important to me to be able to invest in humans and communities that don't have access to very simple things. You know, the things that Honey Pot invests in, probably very much like Red, including Red, right, are very simple, basic things, you know, but those are the things that people are most in need of, you know what I mean? And so, you know, so yeah, so it's been beautiful, you know, and I'm grateful that we're at the place to be able to have a footprint, you know, and be able to invest in other communities and in the organizations that we invest in Red, because it's important. You know, you can't, this is just my opinion. If you're somebody that's making money, or if you're a company that's making money, I personally think, in my opinion, that it's very important to take a portion of that and invest it in things that you believe in. You know, and like I said, it could be the smallest number. It doesn't have to be anything big, but because there's so many brands that aren't able to do it. There's so many humans that aren't able to do it. And it's important because we're all connected. Our planet is connected. Every human on this planet is connected to all the animals, to the air, to the water, to the tree systems, to the mushroom systems, to everything, right? And I know that's a very, you know, in some people's mind, that's a very esoteric thing to say, but it's just the truth, whether you believe it or not, right? And so if we're not investing in each other, if we're not doing our best to be good to each other, you know, whether times are hard or not, you know, where are we going to be as a species in 100 years and 200 years? You know,
that's right. Yeah, seriously. That's right. And what are we creating for our kids, right? And I think
exactly, and their kids,
the next generation, and you've got to embody that if you want the next generation to do it. And I think I give you so much credit because I think, you know, it's one thing for big companies to do it, and they don't do it enough. But as you were just talking about being in the grocery store not too long ago, figuring out how you're going to spend that money, you know, it's incredible that that's where you are now. And so I often get asked at Red, how do you decide who you're going to partner with? And I always say it's about companies that truly believe in the mission. And, you know, for me, yes, we are about getting the check, if you want to be so bold, right? But it's also about getting people like you who understand what we're doing to get out there and help us talk about it. Because getting the check is great, but we've also got to get people to care. And the way people are going to care is by having conversations like this. And then when they care, then they begin to engage. and then
Yep.
the engagement and so on and so on. And
Because
so
you and I can't do it, right? Like
exactly.
we can't do it alone. You
No.
know, like Honey Pot, we are a vagina brand. We're not
Yep.
a nonprofit. I don't
Yep.
know how to work a nonprofit,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
and so it's, you know, so I completely agree with you. We have to invest in foundations who are really, really properly doing the work, who are getting out there on boots on the ground.
That's
and
right.
getting it done, you know,
Yep.
and
Yep.
you know, and that's how we think about it as well, you know, because it's important. We don't want to be giving to an organization that you know, that that essentially, because not every organization is the same, you know, and
Yeah, exactly. And also you don't want to just give it as like lip service, right? Like,
no,
and to be honest, from a Red perspective, that's not what we want, right?
no,
We want sustainable partnerships with brands and leaders who care. And it sounds a little Pollyanna, but when you're out there and you're talking to all of these brands, you know immediately who gets it, who cares, and who doesn't. And you got to weed the ones who don't care out. And that's fine. And those are, I'm sure, wonderful companies, but they're not right for Red. And so I find that having relationships with people like you are what is going to continue to have Red thrive. And it's inherent to what has made Red so successful so far. And I think, you know, our co-founders often talk about, yes, it is about getting the check. But
knowing what to do with the check.
Knowing what to do with it and making sure that what you do with it, you then share the story and you help people understand, oh, okay, I understand. If I engage with that company through Red, now I know how that all, you know, and look, and also this isn't about pity parties, right? This is about empowering people, giving them the access that they deserve.
Absolutely.
And making sure that everybody has that equal access and allowing everybody to thrive. And that's what's going to create strong communities that are going to create strong economies.
That's real wealth.
Exactly. And that's what this world needs a bit more of. So I am so thrilled to be working with people like you and with the Honey Pot. Let me just say, as we close, can you tell us where can we get the Honey Pot? I tend to see them all over New York City when I'm out shopping, but yes, let's let the world know as well.
So first of all, with our partnership with Red, we are actually sold on the Red store on Amazon. So that's if you are a human who wants to invest in the clean cotton pads and also wants to invest in our pads that are actually investing in the Red campaign, you know, go to our Amazon store through the Red Amazon store. You can find our products outside of that on thehoneypot.co. You can also put in thehoneypot.com. We're sold at Target. We're sold at Walmart. We're sold at Walgreens. We're sold at CVS, Kroger. You know, and really the best thing to do is go to thehoneypot.co, put in your zip code, and that'll tell you every retailer that we're sold in your area. But thank you so much.
I will also say it's on the 72nd and Broadway, Duane Reade. So that's my local store and I see them all the time and I think of you. So I just want to thank you so much for this. It is so great to talk to you. And, you know, as I said, this is the time of year where we've got our Gifts That Hit Different campaign, over 130 products available at amazon.com/red or go to red.org. Beatrice, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care.